Hello. Hello. We should be on YouTube now. Hi. We've been through the summer where, oh, what is going on with this? Why did I hear my own voice? Hello. Uh-oh. Hang on. We should be on YouTube now. Hi. We've been through the summer where. Okay. Okay. Hopefully this is going to work. I'm not very good at this. And now I have to do a share screen, which is, um, it's like a half pass. I don't know how to ride. I'm going to do my best. It is autumn and we're switching gears. We spent the summer examining the method, the only method that is balm, B-A-L-M, balm, soothing to a tense force. Then that's forward gymnastic riding. And those episodes are in the live stream section. You can find those. And I am going to put them all in one playlist. So say like if you're driving cross country, you could just listen to them all and, and hear a lot about the issue of tension in horses, which shows up in two ways, either as the horses are hypersensitive, touchy, fractious, over quick, or resistance in a horse that shows up as stuckness is also considered tension. And that is a different type of horse. Major Lindgren called them sleeping beauties. And we did that type in the summer of 2024. So the solution for any horse, this is why I don't care for the idea of fixing horses. The answer for all riding is forward straight riding. And there is no other media available, well, except for the written masters. The written masters did spell out forward straight riding. This is the only modern digital media. I made it. I codified the forward straight riding that is classical, that the masters described and instructed us to do, into digital media. Now, I'm going to try to, anyway, it's autumn now, and tension would result from what we're going to talk about today. And through the summer, especially the first half of the summer, each week I was bringing up the topic of a red flag on the internet. And there were many. I think there were maybe even 10. I can't quite remember. But I'm going to compile all of those. And at the end of autumn, there will be a red flag finale. And I think I might make a little ebook that people can download also, that they could have the red flag finale ebook, so they can reference things. Because out and about on the internet, it is extremely hazardous. If any one of you are trying to learn riding from being online, there are problems, and the problem is that you don't know it until you might not ever know it. Like if you don't really care about how things are going to go 5 years from now, then you might never really find out what the gigantic problems are. But I feel that many of the people I know and that come into my bailiwick have very high aspirations that riding really, really matters. And you really, really want to do it right. And I am unaware of any other digitized digital media that is presenting, explaining, demonstrating, assisting with, and insisting on, besides the program that I assembled. And I use that language carefully. I assembled it, but it's not Jane. This is riding. Now, at the risk of coming off as negative or picking on things, I do feel that it is part of my responsibility to point out big problems going on, because because of the virality of things, thousands of people are having their eyes trained incorrectly. And and there are types of memes that go around and they get shared hundreds, if not thousands of times. And they actually will destroy your horse. And it will make the horses to a point that if you did find your way to a program that was actually functioning forward towards collection, it might not be repairable. And so I want to really impart the warning that I'm trying to give. And I am going to guide you and show you where the right thing is. Okay. The masters didn't mean what is in the viral posts. When I find a correct post on social media, I share it. And I don't really share all that much, but there is a big backlog because I've been now around a few years now since COVID. So there's good examples if you go to my timelines. But considering the vastness of the online horse world, that's a very teensy percentage. It should be much better. It should be much, much better. Now, and my job is to hold this line clear and to make the way clear for you guys to get it right. Not because I enjoy criticizing, but because what I learned, trained, ride, and teach in a disciplined tradition that has a right way and a wrong way. So I'm not inventing anything, and I'm sure they're nice people, but it's bad information for your horses. And so that doesn't make me mean, that makes me a horse lover. I'm not inventing a system, I'm preserving one, and I'm trying to hand it to you. Now, that's my little spiel. That's kind of what's going to be going on in October. In October, I want to get ideas to you about how to know and see how great horses go. That's actually the title of class 103 that is on Udemy, How Great Horses Go. And we're up against it. Well, you're up against it online because of popular, incorrect images. So now I'm going to start in. This was shared by, many of you have shared it. Veterinarians have shared this, and it's very troubling. So now I'm not good at screen sharing, so I'm gonna be doing my best here. So let me get to this one. Okay, it says participants can now see my application. Oh my God. So do you guys recognize this? Let me make it a little smaller. Do you guys recognize this meme? It's all over Helen Gone. And it's very self-righteous, saying, oh, the red ones are so terrible and wrong, and the green one is correct. But the problem is that the green one is also terribly, terribly wrong. And, oh, why did that do that? I want to go to this. I want this. I want to examine the green one a little better. Let's just go to this one. So you guys, I'll put in the description. Well, maybe not. That could get me in trouble. Well, you can see the person who made this, and you've seen this thing online, and it's wrong. So now I'm going to tell you why it's wrong and where you can find the right thing. And I'm not going to be able to explain to you how you can train the right thing in one office hours. But if you hang around, and even better, if you start to do the homework, you will know. Okay. So this green horse is meant to be, according to this, the right thing. And they have these very lovely image graphic artistry of the balanced things and the hind legs pushing forwards and the back lifting, which, hello, I'm sorry, the back doesn't lift, it spreads. And the nose slightly in front of the vertical, which these people just got lucky with that. Now, it's so messed up that I'm going to have to, I didn't really rehearse. I just did the PowerPoint and taught myself how to screen share. So I don't even know where to start, really. I think I might have to have a separate episode of office hours where I'm going to explain in very importantly great detail why a horizontal balance that we see here, can you see my little cursor? That is not what you want. That is impossible. You cannot adjust a horse that is in a balance like that. The reason being is if you add more propulsion from behind, it will disturb that balance. It's too fragile. An absolutely level balance is too fragile to function in motion. It will wind up, you will wind up with a one-dimensional stiff horse. Now, if you follow this person's ideas, you will wind up with a fragile, one-dimensional, lame horse too. These arrows here are very wrong. There's not the back coming up, like sitting on top of a rainbow, like many of the masters talk about it. That is real, but it's not from having this arrow, making one arrow going this way and one arrow going that way. That makes an arch. Riding follows an arc, not an arch. And when there is an arrow in this little place, can you guys see my cursor? It's just going straight ahead and it's along the ground. That is not where propulsion comes from. And also, propulsion is only one of the two forces of the hindquarters. And when a horse is ridden only with propulsion, they will never, ever, ever become adjustable or collected. There is a co-action. There's two forces of the hindquarters, and these forces co-act. And horse training is meant to develop and train to be accessible and easy, and that we can communicate with the two forces of the hindquarters. But this very, very dangerous illustration is only, this person obviously only doesn't know about riding. And this, whenever you see a hind foot going out behind with the bottom of the foot facing rearward, that will always tell you that there is destruction of the lower joints and perhaps the soft tissue imminent. This is going to hyperextend the, oh, I'm pointing my finger, sorry. This is going to make, so imagine the bottom of this hoof here. That hoof, if I was standing behind that horse, I would be able to see the bottom of that foot. I could see the frog of that foot. I could see the shoe of that foot. And that will always mean a problem. A trained horse that is using both forces of the hindquarters will pick up the foot and advance it forward, but will not let there will be no phase of the going that the hoof is facing backward. All right, I don't know if I've scared you, but that's my intention, but I don't know if I have. So now, so see this, this is the correct thing. Now, this illustration is from, I'm going to hold up, I know I'm just a little person. So there's this book, can I get it here? The Principles of Riding, that most of you who have followed me for any length of time know that I recommend and urge everyone to get and follow and try to do it, and insist that your teachers do the same, or else you shouldn't go take lessons from them. And this book is book 2. It's actually also very simple, and it's called Advanced Techniques of Riding, but it's in the same series. It's in the same series, Advanced Techniques of Riding. It is book 2. And on, it's either page 19 or page 27 that I have taken this image from. Yes, it's page 27. What is on page 19? Oh, oh, the aim is on page 19. I knew that was stuck in my mind. I'm going to read you the aim of horse training. It's actually from Gustav Steinbrecht, who wrote it in 1883. He didn't invent it. He learned it from someone else, but he wrote it down very well. Page 19, Steinbrecht's quote, "The rider trainer has achieved his aim and fully trained his horse when both forces of the hindquarters, the propulsive force and the carrying power, coupled with elasticity, are fully developed, and when the trainer can use and balance the effect of these forces exactly." Couple is a good word. Other translations use the word bound with elasticity, or wed with elasticity. What does this one say? Coupled with elasticity, bound with elasticity, wed with elasticity. Anyway, the part that I really want you to have heard what that quote just said is that there are two forces of the hindquarter. And if your horse is off the lunge line with a saddle on and you sitting on it, it is time for you to introduce and start educating your horse about two forces of the hindquarters, not just this destructive, dangerous, ignorant, single arrow Catastrophe. I know that it might sound like I'm being over the top, but it will literally, it will destroy your horses. So in this illustration that's on page 27, I've read you page 19, there are arrows in this illustration also. And I hope you guys can see my cursor. So these are not my arrows. These are the arrows of the masters. And you shouldn't be listening to some graphic artist on Facebook. Listen to what the masters of riding throughout history explain to us. God help you. If you have ever shared that, you should apologize publicly. If you've ever shared that specious meme with the 3 red horses and the green one, it is awful. I could just imagine the edema in the hocks from that. It is so appalling. Okay. So this is a more advanced horse illustration, but the ideas would be the same for a very youngster in its beginning lessons of correct riding, that the horses will start to be aware very early on. I have 2 forces in my hindquarters. The first force, you see these angles, especially these upper angles. These are the very big bones of the hindquarter joints. And the down arrow indicates that these big joints are flexed by load bearing. That is the carrying power I mentioned a moment ago reading the aim on page 19. So the carrying power of the hindquarters we see illustrated by the big bones in the hindquarters whose angles are trained to flex and open again and flex and open again, depending on the load they are carrying. And that load is installed and determined by the soft rider's seat, which transmits weight, indicates by weight to the trained, developed hindquarters the degree of the angles they should use. That is what engagement is. Engagement is coxofemoral. You can write this down. It's in section 34 of the French classical instructions. French cavalry instructions, Sommer 1912. Engagement has to do with the angles of the hindquarters that we see here. Oh, I'm pointing with my finger again instead of the cursor, sorry. The angles of the hindquarters. Engagement is coxofemoral articulation, adjusting those angles by load bearing. So this wonderful simple diagram that this little dolly thinks she can improve on with her stupid app of graphic artistry. The little arrow is showing us weight dropping down onto the angles of the hindquarters. The carrying power of the hindquarters is in the angles of their top joints, and these are adjusted by weight. And these adjustable angles determine and govern the second force of the hindquarters, the baby that we nurture, the propulsive force of the hindquarters, also known as thrust. So, and this thrust, you see the horse steps and then it thrusts forward. The foot, each foot is never going to be going backwards behind the horse, showing the underside of the foot. It's just going to, oh, I'm pointing with my finger again, sorry. It's just going to be picking up and going to a new spot to thrust, to then push off forward again in an arc. Remember, I said that there is no arch in a horse's body. There is only a forward going arc that has one open end. That's the front. Now, we don't open the back end of the horse because it is propelling. It is being governed by the carrying power, is governing the propelling power. The carrying power, which is the angles of the hindquarters joints, is governing the propelling power. Now, a baby horse, when he starts to feel his carrying power come in to gear, literally, he's like, oh my God, I could take a longer step or a shorter step. And you're like, yes, that's right. And that is how we determine. And the horse governs his own momentum by carrying. We inform him what we would like by educated use of the weight of the seat. And that tells the horse really the shape of the propelling that we want. Okay, I hope that was an okay explanation. And an okay explanation of this rear part of this wonderful diagram that's already correct. And if you want to color it in green and share it online, do it. But don't draw destructive veterinary, physiologically, skeletally, and soft tissually, I don't know how to say that, destructive crap like this green one. Make this one the green one. This is a green one. Okay, so this down arrow is going downwards on the hindquarters. And because of something called, the Germans called die Aufrichtung, the French called relative elevation, as opposed to dangerous, terrible, absolute elevation, relative elevation. I cannot say it in French at this time. I'll learn it for next week. Since the carrying power of the hindquarters is being engaged by load, this downward arrow, the forehand of the horse is an up arrow. There are no arrows, one going backwards and one going forwards, like in the specious, terrible, destructive item that I've been refuting today. There is a downward arrow here, which is load bearing. And then that, because of relative elevation, the forehand of the horse will start to come upward. You could even say lighten relative to the carrying power of the hindquarters. So, I wonder if that's it. I think I might have completed my refutation and given you the correct version. Now, one thing I will say, and I'll put a link in the description for an article on that discusses all you need to know about long and low. There's been a whole book written on long and low by someone who doesn't know how to ride long and low. Because if you ride long and low, which this green terrible illustration is attempting to demonstrate, that's not long and low. That's stretched out like a sagging, that's just going to make it's just ruinous. This horse here, in the correct illustration that shows the two forces of the hindquarters, the haunches carrying by lowering, this horse here would be able to, if the rider were to lengthen his reins, the bit would travel forward, downward, and this horse would follow it by lengthening his spine. Starting here at the base of his spine, he would lengthen his spine and follow the bit forward, downward, and I can illustrate that another time. with a real live horse if you want. But correct long and low, this portion of the horse will not change. The horse will still remain as engaged, if not even slightly more. And the withers will still be coming upwards, even as a horse put his nose in the sand by extending his entire spine, lumbar, thoracic, cervical, all the way following it down to the ground. His lumbar spine here is anchored by carrying. So if you put their nose down with them out behind in the manner of this horrible green illustration, it is not lengthening its spine. You are lengthening the wheelbase of the horse, not the top of the horse. Okay, I think I just said it. That is exactly what the problem is. We must lengthen the top line of the horse in an authentic stretch in long and low. And that requires engagement because the base of the spine has to be anchored, or else you're just spreading the whole thing out like a puddle instead of a dynamic, advancing organism. So you've seen these two examples. I hope that I've helped with clarity. The green one is unequivocally, scientifically false. Lowering the neck does not create engagement. It creates destruction. I'm just reading these notes here. Yeah. All four of that meme are wrong. The supposedly correct green horse is terrible. And so now you've seen the examples. I hope I've explained them clearly. One is counterfeit. One is helpful and a good image to imitate or emulate or aspire to. And now all you have to decide is which way you want to ride.